The FedLife podcast is presented by Serving Those Who Serve, a fiduciary, fee-based financial planning firm serving federal government employees and retirees all over the country. This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not intended to be taken as financial advice. All listeners should consult their personal advisors before taking any action. The opinions expressed by our hosts are their own and do not reflect the views, policies, or position of Raymond James. Securities are offered through Raymond James Financial Services, Inc., member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services are offered through Raymond James Financial Services Advisors, Inc. Serving Those Who Serve is not a registered broker-dealer and is independent of Raymond James Financial Services, Inc. And now, here are your hosts. Dan Sipe serves as a branch manager for Raymond James Financial Services and Serving Those Who Serve. Ed Zerndorfer is our guest and federal benefits expert in the space.
Hello and welcome everyone to this episode of the FedLife podcast. I'm your host, Dan Sipe. Additionally, I'm the branch manager here at Serving Those Who Serve, at least Sipe & Associates. And I will begin, as I always do, by saying thank you. Thank you for taking the time to watch us today. But above all, thank you for your service to the government, to the country, to me, to everyone. You don't hear that enough. You will always hear it here. The other thing you will always hear with us is the guru, Ed Zerndorfer. He's back with us once again as part of our ongoing mission to reach, teach, and serve you, the career civilian Fed. Ed, we've got some great articles today, and they cover understanding COLAs, or cost of living adjustments for federal pensions. And there are some misconceptions and misunderstandings about that. So I think this is great. Now, in these articles, you talk about both CSRS and offset as well as FERS. So let's begin with some terminologies to get everybody on the same page here. So walk us through some of the terminologies for COLAs.
So these terms are I'm going to define these terms, and these terms are used in the computation of the cost of living adjustment or COLA. The first term we're going to be defining is the base quarter. The base quarter is the third quarter of the calendar year, which starts July 1st through September 30th. The next term we're going to use, and this is the important one, is the Consumer Price Index for Urban Workers, or CPI-U. That is used, and that's going to be used in the actual computation of COLA, and we're going to explain how that's soon. And the next term we're going to be defining is the base quarter price index. The base quarter price index. We said that the base quarter is the third quarter of the calendar year, July through September. And what the base quarter index is, it's the arithmetical mean of the CPI-U, that's the Consumer Price Index for workers, computed every year by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Take the 3-month average of the CPI-U. Then we get to the actual COLA. What is the actual cost of living adjustment? It's the increase. It's an increase. COLA, what the COLA does is it increases a CSRS or FERS annuity from 1 year to the next. In other words, the COLA is applied to the annuity. Then the next term we need to talk about is the effective date. When does the COLA actually take effect? Now, annuitants, Dan, whether CSRS or FERS, get a monthly annuity, always dated the first day of a month. So which month is that COLA, on the first day of which month is that COLA actually applied? And that will apply, that cost of living will apply for all 12 annuity payments that a CSRS or FERS annuitant receives. Next term is the effective date. When does the COLA take effect? What date? And it'll be a lot clearer when we go through what's happening here for annuitants. And then,
Sure.
Then the annuity commencing date, the date an annuity first begins to accrue. So these are the terms that are used for the COLA.
Okay, so that's a great foundation. So for CSRS, how then is the COLA calculated?
So the COLA is calculated as follows. And just to repeat what I said earlier, that CSRS and FERS offset annuitants get the same COLA as Social Security recipients. I happen to be a CSRS annuitant. I'm getting a CSRS annuity. So this past January, I got my CSRS annuity COLA, and I'm also receiving Social Security. So that same COLA was applied to my CSRS annuity is applied to my Social Security. So what that COLA is and the way it's computed is, it is the difference. It is the difference. I should say, it's the percent change in the base quarter index from the previous year to the current year. So, for example, let's use last January's COLA. I received a 3.2% COLA, a 3.2% costing adjustment applied again to my CSRS annuity and also to my Social Security payment. And the way that was computed was the Bureau of Labor Statistics, they're the ones who compute it, took the base quarter index for calendar year 2022, which happened to be 296.4. We're not going to get into the details what that represents. And took the base quarter index for calendar year 2023, which happened to be 306.0. The difference is 9.6. So the actual COLA was computed as follows. The difference between the two-year base quarter index was 9.6 divided by what it was back in 2022, 296.4. And that turns out to be 3.24%, man. 3.24%. So the COLA is always rounded to the nearest tenth of percent. So the actual COLA was 3.2%. Computed that way. And anybody listening to the podcast wants to see the actual calculation, they can read the column I wrote in the Fed Zone, which I believe was dated, April the 25th. They can read 2024. They can actually see that. But again,
absolutely,
the point was that in that calculation was a COLA for CSRS annuitants, FERS offset annuitants, and Social Security recipients of 3.2%. That was the COLA.
Gotcha. And, great point, Ed. Folks, always make sure, we want these videos to be very convenient for you. Don't sleep on reading those articles on the site. Now, that amount is applied to the annuity, but after any applicable reductions, correct?
Well, actually, it's applied to the gross annuity,
Okay.
The gross.
Okay, so it goes on gross.
Not the net annuity. Take a CSRS annuitant like myself. When I retired from federal service, my annuity was calculated based on my years of service, my high through average salary times the accrual factor. I got a certain amount. But in some cases, some annuitants, some employees when they retire will have reductions to their annuities. For example, if you're giving a survivor annuity, like I am, there's a cost to give a survivor annuity. Let's say it's 10%. That 10% reduction to the annuity, to the gross annuity, does not get a COLA. That amount stays the same. So if my starting annuity, let's say, was $50,000 a year, and the cost to give a survivor annuity benefit was 10%. 10%, I'm giving it to my wife. So that's $5,000. My net annuity would be $45,000.
Gotcha.
In subsequent years, I'm going to get a COLA, but it's going to be applied to the $50,000. That survivor annuity does not affect, it's not going to have, the COLA is not going to be applied to the cost of getting a survivor annuity benefit. And the same thing is true. Let's say an employee owed a deposit and their annuity is being reduced because they owe a deposit or an unpaid redeposit. And finally, if a CSRS employee or service offset employee retires early before age 55, there are still some CSRS employees out there, not a lot. But if they happen to retire early before age 55, under early retirement, their annuity will be reduced because they're retiring before age 55. Once again, that COLA will not affect the cost of the reduction due to early retirement. It's a little tricky. It's a little tricky. And I suggest, again, that individuals who want to know more about this, read the column because I have some specific examples in there. I'm the type of person, Dan, who likes to learn by example. And the only way I can learn, and I want to pass this on, It's to show an example. It'll be a lot clearer if you read the example.
No, couldn't agree with you more. And did I also pick up that if there's rounding, it always rounds down to the lower dollar?
Yes, that is correct. It doesn't round up, it rounds down. Sorry to report.
Okay. And also in your article, you touch on proration of the first COLA. So tell us about that.
Yes, this is unique to CSRS and CSRS offset employees. That the first year COLA, someone retires, particular time of the year, and the subsequent January, they're going to get their first COLA. But in order to get the full amount of that January COLA, they would have had to be retired for the entire year. Who's getting these COLAs? Any CSRS or service offset annuitant who was actually retired as of December 1st of any year. To get that COLA following January, you actually have to be on the annuity rolls as of December 1st. So if you happen to be retired, let's say in July, you retired in July of 1 year. That's that thing. You retired, let's say July 31st. You would become an annuitant as of August 1st. Well, the following January, are you going to get a COLA? Yes, you will get a COLA, but it's not going to be the full COLA because you were an annuitant as of December 1st, but you weren't an annuitant for all 12 months of that year. You retired on July 31st. You became an annuitant as of August 1st. So that's August, September, October, November. That's 4 months of the 12 months of that year ending November 30th. You only would have been retired for 4 months. Therefore, you're going to get 4/12, 4 divided by 12, or 1/3 of the COLA. But every year thereafter, Dan, you get the full COLA. It's just that first year.
Gotcha. Now you sort of round out that section with the details on CSRS survivor annuities.
Yes, very important. And I will tell you, Dan, that there are a lot of CSRS annuitants, when they give survivor annuities, are not aware of this. They're not aware of these survivor annuities in terms of how they're calculated and then how they get cost of adjustments. And I want to make a suggestion. I like to make a plug for our webinars.
Absolutely. Plug away.
And it's been my experience that, employees like to be informed about their benefits, their retirement, their annuity, their TSP, their Social Security. But employees and retirees should be aware of survivor benefits. And we do have a webinar. It's called Understanding Survivor Benefits. We don't hold it every month, but let me just make a plug for the next one. Our next Survivor Benefits webinar, I happen to have it here, will be held on June the 26th. You can go to the website, www.stwserve.com, and you'll see the webinars. Just click webinars, and you'll see that one. All you got to do is sign up. It's free. And if you're not going to be around for that one, our next one after that, I happen to have that one too, will be held. Again, we don't hold them every month, on August the 8th. Once again, sign up on the website there. It's free. If you want to attend both of them, go ahead. There's
Absolutely.
We do a lot of discussion about survivor benefits. But in terms of
that's a great point, Ed. That's a great point. And here, folks, and I really want to stress this because I think we've all encountered something in the last 2 years called shrinkflation, where you go get your favorite candy bar and it's like 20% less and the price is still the same. There's shrinkflation going on out here in what people are making available for you about your benefits training. I actually, Ed, you're not going to believe this, I actually saw somebody stating that all you need is 1 3-hour webinar to understand all the benefits.
That's music to my ears.
We got 7 3-hour webinars, and there's times we run long. So don't let shrinkflation hurt your knowledge of things. You know where we are. We're always going to give you the full portion. No shrinkflation. Sorry, I just had to pop that in.
Well, I appreciate what you're saying, Dan. I know, but I'm a retiree. I retired from the government too, and I know what's going on out there. It's tough out there, and retirees with this inflation in general are hurting bad, really bad, because they call it a fixed income. But thank God, CSRS and FERS annuitants do get COLAs that hopefully will, minimize the effect of this inflation that, again, is affecting all of us.
Absolutely.
And we're going to be talking about the fact that in reality, FERS annuitants have to wait a little longer to get their COLAs. We're going to talk about that shortly. But the fact of the matter is that this has implications as far as when FERS employees should retire. We're going to talk about that. But getting back to survivor annuities is that, let me just say this, that if a CSRS or CSRS offset annuitant gives a survivor annuity, typically to a spouse, that's the most logical person to get a survivor annuity. When the CSRS or CSRS offset annuitant dies, then their spouse, the survivor annuitant, would get a survivor annuity starting when? Do they have to wait for it? No. They're going to get their first survivor annuity the first day of the month following the death of the annuitant. They don't have to wait for it. Now, they're not going to get the full annuity. They get as much as 55% of that annuity. But that 55% they're getting is also going to be getting COLAs. When you're a survivor annuitant, you got the same problem. You got the same problem in terms of inflation. Remember, you have one income now. You're not going to get your deceased spouse's annuity and a survivor annuity. You're going to get one annuity. If both of you are receiving Social Security, only one of you is going to get Social Security. Now, hopefully you have savings of your own. You may be named the beneficiary of your spouse's TSP, IRAs, things like that. All this puts together one thing. You have to be well protected when you are in retirement in terms of income. We're living longer now. We have inflation.
Absolutely.
And everything is in place, Dan, to make sure that your spouse will be taken care of. And this survivor annuity, Dan, when I get the question, do I really have to give a survivor annuity to my spouse? I cringe. Like you're doing. I cringe, Dan.
Me too.
So
the question should be, do I really get to give a survivor annuity to my spouse? And that's awesome. Do I get to do it? Not do I have to? Yep.
I get them. Here, your loved one. You want to make sure they're taken care of. So again,
absolutely.
Survivor annuitants, a survivor annuitant, typically a spouse, will get a COLA, also the same COLA as annuitants get. There's no difference.
Perfect. And last but not least, you talk about two miscellaneous provisions, one having to do with the VCP annuity, but also how reemployed annuitants are impacted by COLAs. Let's touch on those very quickly.
Yes, Dan. Those CSRS and CSRS offset employees who, through the years, have contributed to the voluntary contribution program, the VCP. The program's not that well known, but there are a bunch of CSRS employees and CSRS offset employees and now retirees who have participated in this program. If you want more information, I want to make a plug again. Go to the FedZone. If you are a CSRS employee or CSRS offset employee and you haven't heard about the voluntary contribution program, please go to the FedZone, www.fed-zone.com. Under the search engine, put voluntary contribution program. I wrote 4 columns on the subject and learned everything about it. Well, here's my point about the voluntary contribution program. You put money into this fund. It's the CSRS Retirement Disability Fund voluntarily. And when you retire, you have different options what you can do with that money that you put into that fund. This is your account. You can take it all out in a lump sum. They're paying interest on the fund. You can roll it over to a Roth IRA and then take money out of the Roth IRA tax-free. Or you can ask for what's called a VCP annuity. This is a guaranteed income stream. It's not your everyday insurance company fixed annuity, Dan. It is a guaranteed income stream that, depending on when you retire and how much you have in your account, you're going to get another monthly payment guaranteed for the rest of your life. And if you were to die, this is where it differs from an insurance company annuity, any money left in that account, you name a beneficiary. Remember, when it comes to what's called a life-only annuity with an insurance company, Dan, what happens when you die and you're getting this payment? The money anything left in the annuity, you've made the stockholders of the insurance company very happy.
Indeed.
All right. Now, here's my point about the VCP annuity. For those of you who are maybe receiving it, who are intending to get it, there is no COLA on that. It's a fixed payment. It is a fixed payment. And if you've chosen to give a survivor annuity from the VCP, and you can, when you die and your spouse gets the same payment basically you were receiving, again, no COLA on that. No COLA.
Then going to reemployed annuitants, if they get a COLA on their pension, that's going to impact some things, right?
That is correct. So if we have someone a CSRS employee who retires, who is reemployed, it's called a reemployed annuitant. When you are a reemployed annuitant, what's happening is you're getting your annuity, a CSRS annuity, and you're getting a salary. Under the rules, under being a reemployed annuitant, you cannot get a full salary. You might be working full time, but that makes no difference. And get your full annuity. So what happens is your salary is offset by the amount of your annuity. For example, Dan, let's suppose we have someone out there as a CSRS annuitant, and their annuity is $5,000 a month. $5,000 a month. And they become a reemployed annuitant, and their salary is $3,000 biweekly. $1,500 biweekly, or $3,000 a month. Then their salary will actually be $2,000 a month. Why? Because you got to take the $3,000 salary and subtract it from the annuity. The $5,000 monthly annuity leaves you $2,000. You can't get both the full annuity and the return. Here's my point. That annuitant is getting a COLA. And every year, the annuity goes up. There's going to have to be an additional offset to the salary to take into account the additional annuity resulting from the COLA.
Gotcha.
Is it fair?
Gotcha.
Well, that's for people to judge. Okay? People to judge.
Got it. So now let's shift gears here and head over to FERS, because it is set up differently. And for starters, FERS retirees typically won't receive COLAs if they retire before 62, except for a couple of groups. Tell us about those, Ed.
Okay, those groups include a FERS disability annuitant. There's something called FERS disability retirement, that if a FERS employee applies for and is approved for FERS disability retirement, they retire before age 62 and get a FERS disability annuity. Now, I'm not going to go into the details now, the calculation of that annuity. But I'll say this, that there's a difference between the first year annuity you're receiving and starting the second year, that you get a different annuity through the time that you turn age 62. Let me just say this, that during that the FERS disability annuitant will get a COLA starting in the second year until they turn 62. And when they turn 62, they're going to get a regular FERS annuity. And as we're going to find out here very shortly, in general, FERS annuitants are not eligible to get their first COLA then until the year after they're 62. And we're going to talk more about that. The other exception for FERS annuitants to get COLAs are special provision employees. We have some employees out there called special provision employees, and they include law enforcement officers, firefighters, air traffic controllers, customs, border, and patrol officers. They can retire, Dan, with 25 years of service at any age. I know somebody who's a law enforcement officer at age 45, had 25 years of service, retired. Had it. I mean, it's tough work. So here at age 45, you retire, you're going to get your FERS annuity. And under the normal rules for FERS COLAs, you have to wait till 62. That's 17 years away.
Sure.
So FERS, this special revision employees under FERS get their COLAs they get their first COLA the year after they retire. And finally, I'm so happy to report that surviving spouses, if they're getting a FERS survivor annuity, they get a COLA their first COLA the year after they start receiving their survivor annuity. Very important.
I agree. That's a good thing. So the FERS COLA calculation rate is different from CSRS because there's actually kind of 3 tiers to it, correct?
Yeah, Dan, I don't understand why Congress did this, but I'm not here. I mean, I can't understand a lot of things, but I got to say it. Let me just say in general here that I consider the FERS COLA, I call it the diet COLA. The diet COLA. Okay. And we talked about the CSRS COLA, how it's calculated. Again, it's calculated by the Bureau of Labor Statistics based on the Consumer Price Index for urban workers, the average. So here's what it comes down to when it comes to the FERS COLA versus the CSRS COLA. If it turns out that the CSRS COLA is over 3%, we gave the example earlier. This past January, the COLA was 3.2% for CSRS annuitants like myself. Well,
sure.
The FERS COLA then, again, for annuitants over the age of 62, is 1% less. That's 3.2% less 1% makes 2.2%.
Gotcha.
If the CSRS COLA is between 2 and 3%, the FERS COLA will be reduced down to 2%. Okay? And finally, if the CSRS COLA is less than 2%, then everybody gets the same COLA. Remember, between, let's say, 2015 and 2019 actually, we had low inflation. I remember in 2016, there was no COLA. Supposedly no inflation. I got no COLA, and so did anybody who was a FERS annuitant. Then I think in 2017, we started getting some inflation. So I got a COLA, Dan, don't laugh, 0.3%. So did the FERS annuitants. So
gotcha.
So that's how the FERS COLA is structured. There's a depending on what the CSRS COLA is.
And there are also proration rules for that first year COLA?
Actually, no.
Okay.
In most circumstances. Here's the reason. When a FERS employee retires, if the FERS employee retires under regular normal retirement, even MRA plus 10, MRA plus 20 reduced retirement, they're retiring before age 62. They are eligible for no COLA. They get no COLA until the year after they're 62. So if they retire, let's say at minimum retirement age, 30 years of service at MRA, their MRA is 56. They retired at age 56 with 30 years of service. At 56 years old, they're going to get their first COLA 7 years later. 7 years later. This is the year after they turn 62. So there would be no proration. The only time there would be a proration is if, let's say, an employee retires before 62 and would have been retired for less than a year. I think that's where a proration may happen. And therefore, a survivor annuitant and then dies. The survivor annuitant then would be subject to a COLA.
Gotcha. Well, again, folks, head back over to the FedZone. That's fed-zone.com. Read both of Ed's articles. One's the end of April, one's the beginning of May. They are dynamite. The examples are terrific. He always makes it so clear. Ed, great stuff. And I'll say as I always do, brother, on behalf of all our feds, thank you for being such a great resource here, because you take tough stuff, you make it understandable. Folks, that's a wrap. We are Serving Those Who Serve. So be sure to subscribe to this podcast. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Remember to share it with your friends and a few strangers. Don't forget those live webinars every single week. So head over to swserve.com. You'll see the blue webinar button. You touch it, it turns red. Click it, and it'll take you to our full menu of, we have 7, 8, 9 of them in there, 3 hours each. None of this, all you need is 3 hours nonsense. I can't believe it, Ed. I just can't believe it. I can't believe what's out there, but I can't help that. We can help us. So with these live webinars, the guru comes to you, reach you where you are, teach you where you are, and serve you where you are. Sign up for one, sign up for all. Share that page with your friends. They will thank you. And don't forget to read Ed every single week in the Fed Zone. That's fed-zone.com. So, rounding it out, for Ed, the crew at Serving Those Who Serve, and me, Dan Sipe, ending as I always do with good luck, Godspeed, and above all, remember, it's your Fed life. So please, please, please make it a great one, because you deserve it. Stay well, everybody. We are out.